You've probably never heard of Lake Angelus, Michigan, and that's exactly how the locals like it. Nestled in northern Oakland County, just a quick drive from Detroit, this place isn't just under the radar, it's practically invisible. No downtown, no strip malls, no welcome sign plastered with population stats. In fact, it barely has a population to begin with less than 300 residents, give or take. Lake Angelus is one of the tiniest cities in the entire state of Michigan. But don't let the size fool you. This little lakeside community is quietly home to some of the most stunning real estate and wealthiest individuals in all of Michigan. So why the radio silence? Why doesn't anyone talk about Lake Angelus? Because what happens around this private lake tends to stay around the private lake. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on one of Metro Detroit, Michigan's best kept secrets, from its fascinating backstory and ultra exclusive lifestyle to what it actually costs to live there, and why it might be the quietest luxury you've never considered. Lake Angelus sits about 30 to 35 miles north of downtown Detroit, but it feels a world away from big city hustle. Drive up I-75 into Oakland County and you're near it, though you probably wouldn't realize it because Lake Angelus has no obvious commercial strip or flashing sign to announce itself. In fact, the entire city completely surrounds Lake Angelus, the lovely 0.5 square mile lake from which it takes its name from. The city's land area is tiny, just about 1 square mile of land plus the lake making up roughly another 0.5, like I said. That means roughly a third of the city's 1.5 or 1.6 square miles is water, which is fitting because life here revolves around the lake itself. Lake Angelus is bordered by larger, more typical suburbs, Auburn Hills to the northeast, Pontiac to the south, and Waterford Township to the west. Almost like a hidden donut hole of serenity in the middle of busier towns. With fewer than 300 residents, Lake Angelus has fewer people than a single graduating class at many high schools. It's an intimate community where everyone literally could know everyone else. The vibe is quiet, residential, and extremely secluded. If your idea of excitement is hearing crickets at night and counting the stars over a calm lake, you'll fit right in here. Despite its minuscule size, Lake Angelus carries a big reputation among those in the know of it. The city consistently ranks at or near the top of Michigan's wealthiest places to live. In fact, according to recent data, Lake Angelus is the richest city in Michigan with an average household income of around $392,000. The per capita income is similarly sky high, so essentially, Lake Angelus is a tiny town of big estates and big bank accounts. There are no public attractions or bustling downtown to draw outsiders' attention, and the residents, many of whom are successful professionals or business owners, seem to prefer that low-key profile to it. Lake Angelus is the kind of place you might hear mentioned in a Forbes article about rich people or rich things, but you almost never hear about it in a casual conversation. It's Metro Detroit's best kept secret in so many ways. So how did Lake Angelus become this exclusive hideaway? The history is actually pretty fascinating and not widely known. Back in the early 1900s, this area was just rural Oakland County, centered on a pretty little body of water, which was then called 3 Mile Lake. The lake supposedly got that name because at one point people believed it was 3 miles across, though in truth it's a lot smaller, obviously. As Detroit's automotive industry boomed, a few wealthy Detroiters began to eye 3 Mile Lake as the perfect retreat. They bought up large parcels of farmland around the lake and built summer cottages and homes, creating a small community of their own in the country. Around the 1920s, one influential resident decided that 3 Mile Lake just wasn't a charming enough name for this lovely spot. She championed changing the name to Lake Angelus, and it stuck. But the story doesn't end there. As the 1920s rolled on, Lake Angelus faced the possibility of being annexed by neighboring cities, and that didn't sit very well with the locals there. They liked their little slice of serenity and weren't about to give it up. So in true Lake Angelus fashion, they took matters into their own hands. In 1929, a special act of the Michigan legislature gave them the go-ahead to incorporate as a village, and by 1930, they made it official. Fast forward to 1984, they took things a step further and became a city, though, to be honest, that title feels a little bit ambitious for a place with no sidewalks or traffic lights, but still, it gave them a little more independence and kept things just the way they liked it. Private, peaceful, and very much on their own terms. These days, Life in Lake Angelus is as quiet and lake focused as you'd imagine it. There's no business district or even a local coffee shop. It's 100% residential. But what it lacks in walkability, it more than makes up for in lifestyle. Residents enjoy the all sports lake, meaning you can paddleboard, water ski, fish, or cruise around in your pontoon anytime you like. And because the lake is private, you won't be competing with the general public for space, and that's a big, big thing here with a lot of the public lakes here in Metro Detroit. It's truly a neighborhood lake shared just among the folks lucky enough to live there. When winter rolls in, it doesn't slow down. Residents take to the frozen lake to skate, play hockey, or just enjoy snow-covered stillness. It's like living in your own peaceful nature documentary. And if you've ever need a change of scenery, you're only minutes from Great Lakes Crossing in Auburn Hills or Pine Knob in Clarkston. You're close to it all without being in the middle of all the hoopla. Schools, well, Lake Angelus doesn't have its own. Most homes fall within the Pontiac School District, though some might land in the Waterford School District depending on the location. That said, the area doesn't have the same focus on school-related events or infrastructure like some other suburbs might, hence the choice to branch out. Now let's talk a little bit about the homes. If you're even thinking about moving to Lake Angelus, bring your budget and then double it and then maybe triple it too. As of June 2025, this graph provided by real-time MLS data shows the average sale price in the MLS as a whole in blue and Lake Angelus in green. Lake Angelus comes in at a whopping $2.95 million and some change, which was a 55.3% increase year over year. And that's an insane jump, right? And the reason is there's not a lot that goes up for sale over there, so bigger sales will skew the data quite a bit. For example, within the last year, there's only been 6 homes sold active and pending, ranging from a $1.499 million home to a $6.499 million home. And that's a to-be-built home with 100 feet of water frontage and situated on 2.1 acres. This is actually a listing held by my brokerage at Sotheby's International Realty, so if there's any interest in this property, reach out anytime for more information. I'm happy to send that over to you. And of course, with great property comes great responsibility in the form of property taxes. Not because the millage rates are horrible, but when you base them on the price tag of these homes, it can add up to say the least. Lake Angelus, as I mentioned earlier, is covered by 2 school districts, Waterford and Pontiac. The homestead millage rate in the Pontiac School District, meaning you'll be making this your primary residence, sits at 30.3653, but if you are someone who has a home elsewhere and can't claim your Lake Angelus home as your primary, the rate jumps up to a whopping 48.3653. On the Waterford end, the homestead rate is a 34.3173, while the non-homestead or secondary home rate is 51.9196. If you're someone who has the average income of Lake Angelus, it may not be a huge worry for you, but I want to create more perspective on this. I talk about property taxes a ton, and for good reason. They are a big expense in Michigan, and after having spent lots and lots of time working with Michigan assessors to nail home equations I can provide to my clients, this is what it came to be. You take 50% of the home's list price, or what you'd offer on it, multiply it by the millage rate, and divide it by 1,000 to get a high estimate, a plan for the worst and hope for the best figure. A lower estimate would be taking the current SEV, or state equalized value, and multiplying it by the millage rate and dividing it by 1,000. If you don't want to go through all that, I have a Michigan Department of Treasury property tax calculator in the description for you. Keep in mind, there's a disclaimer on it that says they don't update the calculator's rates until August for that current year, so it's possible before then that figures are off based on elections and what mills were tacked on for votes and things like that. To cross-reference it, I'll put the most recent property tax PDF in the description too. So, quick high and low calculation here. We take the average price in Lake Angelus. We will take that $3 million just to be easy. 50% of that is $1.5 million. Multiply it by the lowest rate as a primary residence in the Pontiac School District of 30.3653 and divide it by 1,000 to get an annual property tax of $45,547.95. And the high end, which is 51.9196, is a secondary home in the Waterford School District, would come out to be $77,879.40. So What's the catch with Lake Angelus? Well, it really comes down to what you value. Lake Angelus isn't for everyone. If you like walkable downtowns, community events, or being surrounded by a bustling, active neighborhood, this probably isn't your vibe. There's not a whole lot going on, and that's the whole entire point of it. If you want total privacy, stunning lake views, and the kind of peaceful retreat most people only dream about on vacation, Lake Angelus is the real deal. The reason nobody talks about Lake Angelus is because the people who live there invest into this private, secluded lifestyle, and that's how they prefer it. They're enjoying their morning coffee on the dock, their evenings on the water, and their weekends surrounded by nature. And honestly, I don't blame them one bit. What are your thoughts on the little community of Lake Angelus? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. So if you're thinking about making a move and Lake Angelus has popped up on your radar, or if this is your first time hearing about it and now you're intrigued, reach out. I help people move to, from, and around the state of Michigan, and I love to help you figure out if this is the gem for you. I also have a link to the Living in Michigan newsletter in the description for additional resources. Until next time, thanks for watching.